16 minutes past 8, we're still talking about Ogun Investment Forum for 2014. The focus is on agriculture and urban development. Now we're joined by Segun Abiodun, who is a special advisor on housing to the Ogun State government. She's an architect. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, speaking about housing, it's an area where it will attract a lot of attention. Well, we had the Commissioner for Housing also speaking up about this one, but what exactly is the focus now about housing in the urban areas?
Okay, if you look at Ogun State in general, you will discover that Ogun State is a multi-town state. What I mean by that is that we have a lot of different towns which equally could have been the state capital, such as the Shagamu, Ijebu-Ode, Waterside, Ilaro, Ota, Ifo. Numerous places like that. So the focus of the Ministry of Housing, as well as providing housing and the housing policy, is to ensure that people get to live and work and maintain a good lifestyle in their area of first choice. That means they don't have to migrate to urban areas. So what we're doing is to try and transform all those towns into livable zones. If you look at, for example, Agbara, what we're trying to do there is to develop industrial estates with the help of OPIC, develop housing units in those areas to support the industrial estate that the Ministry of Housing is developing. So what you will see is a nucleus of a zone which is self-sustainable. That means you don't have to travel outside Agbara to get the things that you need, like good schools, good hospitals, and of course we're trying to develop good roads as well. If you also notice the drive of the government in terms of infrastructure, what we have done for the past 2.5 years is to open up all the rural areas. So you're going to be surprised that you're going to find a lot of Ogun Standard roads all over. And our Ogun Standard roads standard means that whatever it is that we're doing it in a way in which it is can be seen anywhere in the world.
You know, the problem with development, I'm happy that you're here looking at all of this, is that, well, most of these places you have just talked about are border towns. And sometimes there's always the talk of being abandoned or left because of not knowing where exactly the falling, whether they are right on state a boundary or right inside of the state, to the extent that sometimes you have people complaining. How well have you been able to manage all of that and see that you don't have such problems or such are reduced to the barest minimum?
Okay, well, in terms of Ogun State boundaries, we're very clear what belongs to Ogun State. And I think that's the question. We're very clear about that. But beyond that, actually, we are looking at people as human beings, being able to live where they are, being able to live properly within where they reside. Meaning that if they go to school, they don't have to travel miles to go to school. A good example is the road that we opened up in Ilaro. Before we opened up the road was really very bad. And the farm settlements there, they weren't able to bring their produce out onto the road. So what happened was that most of their produce got spoiled, and they had to, some of them stopped farming altogether because they couldn't sell what it is they produced. But you will see, you will notice now that with the opening up of that particular rural road, people are much happier. They're able to bring out their produce to the main road where the second-hand buyers can buy them and take them to the market. And you would begin to see a community developing. And that is what we are trying to do.
Have you tried to also look towards getting a market for them? A market where it's easily accessible to get. You talked about road because we have realized that most farmers, for instance, now we're talking about agriculture, take their produce to the highways for people to stop and buy. Is your state thinking of having a market where people can actually drive in, get what you want and drive out, instead of having some of them come to the highway to display their produce?
Yeah, producers' markets, yes. That's one of the focuses of the Ministry of Agriculture. Beyond that, we provide the base for which other disciplines or other ministries can develop. Like, for instance, the Ministry of Health agriculture. Our goal is to provide the base for which other sectors can thrive, the industrial sector, the agricultural sector. Because if you have, like for instance, an industrial development and the people who work in industrial development don't have places to live, don't have places to relax, they wouldn't want to come there, and it would be much more difficult to attract the quality of personnel that they need. The same thing with the agricultural sector or social sector, and that's what we're trying to do. The focal point of 3 or 4 of our projects that we're going to be highlighting today, the first one is the Metro City, which is a border town with Lagos. That particular one is unique because we realized that that is a pressure zone.
So where is that?
It is a border town, borders Lagos on the expressway, on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway. You know where the car market is currently? Okay, it starts from there and it ends at the end of the Long Bridge. So that area where you have the car market, we're relocating them. We're in the process of relocating them to another place. And that whole stretch from there to the end of the Long Bridge is what we call the Metro City. It covers about 2,000 hectares. And what we want to do is develop a new neighborhood or a regional town that is self-sustaining, that has a lot of hotels, golf course, shopping centers, residential neighborhoods, different categories of residential neighborhoods, so everybody will be able to plug in at their own income. We have about 12 kilometers of beautiful river, the Ogun River. So we're going to be doing a lot of flood control there.
That river, beautiful?
Yes, it will be beautiful because that was just what I was going to say. The first process is to do the flood control. And around 4 o'clock today.
Well, you do know that because the car market was there for a while, it's been heavily polluted.
Yes.
Because of dung. Are you looking at purification or?
Yes. We're going to be controlling the whole river.
Okay.
At that stretch, that 12-kilometer stretch. We're going to be looking at finding a solution, which in turn will actually help the other side, if you notice, or the other side of the expressway. So once we solve that problem, the other side stops flooding.
So the question now will be, how soon is this coming on board? Because you painted a very beautiful picture. I'm sure a lot of people are visualizing in their head and saying, okay, so when is this going to happen?
Now, we're launching Metro City today at 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock?
Yes.
How long is the project going to take?
The project is going to take 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years?
But it's going to be delivered in phases. So the first phase, perhaps in the next 18 to 2 years.
Okay.
Be delivered.
Now, one of the things that has happened to Ogun State, I don't want to believe that the state government planned for this, or maybe you didn't see it coming, is the influx of people coming into the state, possibly because housing is a lot cheaper, so they believe they're living on the fringes and then working in Lagos makes life sometimes a lot easier for them. And then you also find that a lot of people have bought their own lands, maybe at much cheaper rates here in Ogun State, and are building at their convenience. The question will be, what exactly was the plan for planning, if there's any such thing, so that they all fall within a particular plan that the state already has, and it's not developing like a shanty. Like when you're coming from Mowe, Ibafo, you're wondering, was there really a plan for this place?
Unfortunately, there wasn't. And failure to plan, I guess, is failure of government. And in realizing that, that is why we're taking control. If not, it would probably take control of us. We do have another project along that road, although that one is a long-term, 20-year project. There's another city around that Mowe Bafo, which is 30,000 hectares, but that is a 20-year project. But we see this one, which is closer to Lagos, first of all, being a pressure zone, and then we need to sort out that flooding. If not, I guess in a way, it's a blessing in disguise, because it constantly flooded. That's why it's not habitable right now. What you would notice, especially in our ministry, is that this is the opportune time to do a lot of things that we're doing. In another 5-6 years, the land that we're using wouldn't belong to the government, or government wouldn't have access to the land so readily. The reason why I'm saying that is that, for instance, the Metro City, yes, we have been able to sort out ownership of the land because it was largely vacant. You also look at Abeokuta City Center, which is like 60 hectares of land in the middle of the in the middle of Abeokuta, and that most of that land belonged to the state government. So a lot of what we're doing comes at a right time, that we can plan development, and that's what we're trying to say. When we plan development, we'll be able to plan a lot of other things. And that's why I started off my conversation by saying that Ministry of Housing, we're doing a lot of things in which other people can actually build upon, commerce, you know, economics and stuff.
What about education? Because you've talked about other sector that can build upon your kind of plan.
Yes.
But we haven't actually mentioned the education sector. Is it also part of what concerns you?
Indirectly. Because
structure-wise?
Yes, in terms of structure, the locations of schools.
Because I'm really concerned about that. A couple of times I think we've actually beamed our searchlight on some schools, and the last was a school somewhere in Akute, and I'm sure you remember that school. What plans as a government does the government have with having good and better structures for some of these schools?
In terms of the structure of schools, what we're planning is firstly that all kids should be educated and shouldn't have to go more than 10-15 minutes to school. That is the ultimate goal. Creating, first of all, an enabling environment to allow the private sector to come in and partner with us on provision of schools. That is one of our goals. But even the schools that do belong to us, you would notice that we're massively upgrading all of them. Not only upgrading, but we're actually building new schools, which we call Ogun Standard schools. And I'm sure you've seen them all over. And it's all in a drive to improve the educational quality of Ogun State. Yes, it is true that there would be one or two huts, you know, makeshift schools here and there, but that only lets us know that there is a need in that area. Like, for instance, the school you're talking about in Akute, I think we've taken it up and we realize, because obviously there will be such, you know, and as those come to light, we always take care of it appropriately.
Okay, Segun Abiodun is a special advisor on housing to the Ogun State Governor. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we're back after this break. Join us again.